From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher, and their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher, and our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Scripchuk. Their mission: to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training Podcast. I'm going to be one of the hosts for this episode. My name is Bill. Who else is hosting?
I'm Vicki.
And I'm Audra.
And I'm Jeremy. Who'll be here
Yeah.
soon. So we are celebrating episode 550, which means our favorite guest is back, Mr. Ross Bentley.
Is that favorite or just we run out of guests, so we've got to find somebody?
You are the favorite guest we've ever had on episode 550, Ross.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Yeah. You got it. Yeah.
So, Mr. Bentley, you have the number 2 rated automotive podcast in all the world. Why are you lowering yourself to us?
Because you're here.
Yeah, that's fair. We are here.
And as we were talking about before we got started here, is the way to be number 2 is to be on a list that only has one other option on it. Yeah.
This is true. But nonetheless, number 2 rated podcast with you and Jeff Braun and Sam Smith. Very nicely done, sir.
Yeah, we're just having a blast. We recorded a bunch of them before we got, we kind of wanted to get enough of them sort of in the can before we launched. And it's called It's Not the Car. And the idea is to kind of dig into stories and kind of dig in behind the scenes and talk about what really happened and who was involved. And, Jeff is one of the best race engineers in the world. So he has a perspective on things that most people don't. Sam is Sam. I mean, the guy, you can put words together like nobody can. He's a brilliant storyteller, but he also has a really knack for pulling things apart and asking the right questions and really kind of getting at what the core of things are. And then for me, I just kind of tag along and have some fun and listen to these guys talk and ramble. So we're having a blast recording them. And who knows, we may stay number 200,000th for a while, but we're hoping that this thing takes off. Yeah.
You can't have our spot, Ross. 200,000's taken.
Yeah. Sure.
No worries.
Well, everybody has a podcast.
It seems that way.
Yeah.
So that's okay. As long as you can get another. All we wanted to do was be able to either help people get started or help them get a little better. And, we've done a little bit of that. We want to raise all boats and we'll get there.
I think you've accomplished a lot of that from what I've seen. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Except for the episodes that I'm on.
No, those are highlight reels. And, I hate to tell you this, Mr. Bentley. As soon as I get done designing it, you will be having your, much like Saturday Night Live has the 5 host episode, you get your jacket. We are designing a jacket as we speak that will be coming your way because you've been here more than 5 times. So
wow.
So something to give away to Salvation Army whenever you're ready.
I was just gonna say, I mean, you could use it actually right now. It's cold here in the Northwest. Probably I can't remember when it's been this cold before.
Really? It's usually pretty moderate out there. I mean, you get a little rain, but
it got 2 days ago, it got down to 16 degrees.
Wow.
Yeah. That's like unheard of.
You're not that much. Well, hopefully it was a few days ago when you weren't located there and were slightly west and deeply south, but maybe not.
No. But yeah, I had to suffer through a little brief stint in Hawaii. So that was a shame. Yeah.
It was terrible, but you're man enough to take it. So nicely done, sir.
Somebody has to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Mr. Bentley, we were talking earlier, um, and we had Vicki weekend is what we refer to it as, and she got her anniversary present for putting up with me for this long. And then we put our goals together for the season, and I think Vicky's number one goal was to get better for this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I have volunteered since a couple of years ago, she let me go and focus on my HPTE and learning and, getting my instructor's license and my racing license. So I said, I can do the same for you. And she's like, oh, okay. So for Christmas, Santa Claus gave her a menu. And on the menu, there was three items. The appetizer course was to pick a race that she wanted to go to either participate or to watch, or to go to a racing school or to comp school for someplace, or to go to, what was the other one? Was it
A rally.
A rally? Oh, that's right.
A rally weekend.
Rally with like O'Neill because it's closer than Dirtfish because Dirtfish is on the other side of the world from here, or whatever. And then her main course, I believe, was which track or location that she wanted to go to. And then her dessert was to figure out who she wanted to go with. And that could be somebody at rally with O'Neill, or it could be with a coach, or it could be with an organization or whatever.
It was quite the gift.
It was quite the gift.
Wow.
Quite the gift.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're making it really difficult for the rest of us, Bill.
Well, when you look like this, Ross, you do what you can to marry somebody who looks
He's
like
a good husband. He's a good one.
Yeah.
He's a good one.
So, since it's nearly a month after I've given her this gift and she still has zero idea of what to do, I thought perhaps you could question her and try to determine at this point in her progress what would be the most beneficial or the pluses and minuses, because she's really it's kind of like going to the buffet. You just don't know what you want. You kind of want it all. And
yeah.
So when you said your choice of tracks, does that mean that you're coming to the Nürburgring with us in September?
Where's that at?
That was on the list.
Was that on the list?
That was on the list. But that was more for me than for her. So she wisely said no, not yet.
And Jeremy? Yeah.
Jeremy wants to go. Yeah, that's the one thing I have an agreement with Jeremy. If we ever get sponsored and actually make money from the podcast, we will be going to the Nürburgring and Spa. So don't worry.
Okay. So Vicki, when you say your goal is to get better, what does that mean though? Like, because a lot of people go, well, better could be just, I want to have more fun, or, I want to turn one quick lap time, or I want to win a race. I mean, what do you think? What does better mean to you?
Better for me means to level up. I feel like I want to level up. I do know where some of my weaknesses are, and those are the things that I would like to focus on. But I certainly want to get, with this incredible gift, I want to get a bang for my buck weekend that I could go back and say, I got a lot of information with this stuff. I got a lot to learn. I know what I need to practice on now, and something, a strong educational thing where I can take back with me that I can continue practicing with is what I'm looking at. I do know that for a short time, I will need to have an in-car coach experience, because I do recognize that I have some bad habits that I have that I need somebody to say, to physically see what I'm doing that is holding me back from achieving what I'm doing on track. So I do know I need that. The next one that I need is better sense of car control. And that is something that we talked last night with a friend of ours whose wife is having a similar situation where they said maybe in 2025 we can go away for a weekend and do a rally school with them, or have them go out to that way you can get, like, instead of just like a skid pad, you can get the full sensation of what that car is doing on track. So why does it have to be an or when it could be an and? So we just might have to extend it.
There's a bank account issue where it's going to be an or. So let me rephrase that. So
right.
But you're planning on having another anniversary next year, aren't you?
Not as big as this one. So, but when it comes to data, when it comes to the one-on-one experience, whatever.
You're past 101, sweetie.
Well, yeah, but I've never had an instructor except for HPDE1. And maybe after that to physically see what I'm doing and physically helping me to improve. So I guess that's what it would. Going to see a race, I don't think that's going to do it for me. So it's going to have to be a coaching experience is what I'm going to be looking at.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the question again. What does better mean? Is it a faster lap time? Like, is that the big better that you want? Like, to be able to turn faster lap time? Is better being a better racer? So you're better position your car around other cars. What do you think it is?
I think it would be speed and car control. Is I think what it was, because I don't have a problem with traffic and strategizing.
Okay.
So that doesn't really worry me too much. But I think for that, it would be working on my speed time and then working on my car control.
And if I asked others on your team, what would they say?
I don't know. Why don't we ask them?
I would say, since this isn't Bill, because she wouldn't listen to me, I would say that she wants to be better and more comfortable at being near the limit.
Okay. Anybody else?
Is my mic working?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. Okay. I was worried. I haven't plugged this thing in months. Yeah, I think that the big thing, Vicki, that I've seen, and just through talking with you and all that kind of stuff, is a better understanding of what the car is doing, when it's doing it, why it's doing it, how to control that, how to react to what the car is doing in a faster paced environment, meaning lap times are faster, more consistent, and understanding what the car is doing when it's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Audrey, you have any?
Yeah.
No, she's so way better than me that I get nothing.
But if you did know what she needed to get better at, what would it be?
It would be confidence. I think that it's her confidence that's lacking.
Okay.
Don't forget fear of speed.
Doesn't that go along with confidence?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of related, aren't they? Yeah.
A little bit.
And part of the reason for asking that is yes, you can go to a rally school, and I'm a big believer in going to rally schools because you slide around a lot and you get used to the car feeling loose and it moving a lot, and it's like, oh, the car can move that much and I can still catch it. The downside is it happens at a slower speed. And I've seen some people that go and they get better at controlling a car at slow speeds. But when they're, you're in a fourth gear corner and the car moves around and things happen a lot faster, then it's a different deal. So I'm trying to understand and dig a little deeper to find out, is a skid pad, and not just going to a parking lot or a skid pad area and just driving around and spinning the car. That's not it. But getting in a place where you can really push the car and even do some stuff, sliding the car on dry pavement. So not super slippery stuff, but where you're getting used to the car moving around at a higher speed as well. obviously it's got to be in the right place, and you need the right coach to do that. Not just anybody can do that.
Right.
So I'm and I'm going to say right now, I'm not I'm not 100% sure whether rally school car control training would be the best.
What about, I'm not saying that that is something that I want to do for this gift, but I think would like attending a drifting course assist in something like that?
It would help, but
Mhm.
there are some techniques that they use that are just a little bit different.
Right.
And for sure, getting used to and getting confident with making the car do some things, it
Mhm.
would help for sure. I'm just thinking of, there are two coaches that I know of that specifically work with car control training
Mhm.
in not, on dry pavement. Could be wet, but it could also be dry. And so things are happening at higher speeds,
Mhm.
and that's a good option. That's a good option. What were the other options that you have as part of this your prize of unspeakable value?
Uh, I, I I I do believe that ice racing was mentioned, and someone
Mhm.
said no, that's cold.
Yeah, it's cold. It's one thing I know about ice racing. It's cold. Yeah, they do it on ice, I think. Yeah.
Mm.
But that would be fun though.
It's a blast. Um, I think honestly, Ross, if I were to intervene here, I would say that the best thing would be, like you said, find a coach that can right seat. We all have bad habits that we have created over time, and I think for Vicki to understand the car control, I think that we need to get somebody in the right seat somewhere at speed that's going to help eliminate the bad habits, fix a couple of things, because I've been on track with her and followed her. There's some things that need to be tweaked, but for the most part, she's very safe, gets around the track. But there are a lot of things that we can all do differently and better. So I think an environment where she has a one-on-one coach, helping, I think is going to be the best thing.
Yeah, the things that I do experience is that, like Jeremy said, I do get around the track and I do get around the track pretty quickly. I do know that there's times when I just end up not in the right gear, not in a detrimental gear, but not in a right gear, and I just keep slipping up. Like
Mhm.
I needed to be somewhere different on that. I need to be something. Let me go around and do that again. But I get around safe and quickly, but I'm not pushing it because pushing it, I need that somebody to help me get there.
Push it there. And yeah, I mean, as part of it, it's that getting comfortable being
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable, right?
Right.
It's knowing that, okay, the car's going to move around here. And anybody that's done ice racing or grew up in Wisconsin and drove in the snow from the moment they were whatever started driving, they're comfortable with the car moving around, and they
Mm-hmm.
like it when the car moves around. And if you haven't done a lot of that, the car moves and you immediately go, what's it doing?
Right.
So, and yeah, sometimes you do need somebody, whether there are ways to do it in car, and there's some that can be done through radio and stuff like that. But somebody that's gonna push you, and then
Mm-hmm.
obviously you have to trust them that they're gonna push you in the right way as well.
Mm-hmm. I
I'm
think that if somebody right seated me
Yeah.
with the vehicle that I was driving to show me the capability of the car that I'm driving and the limits that it is, and then go back and go, oh, and I think that's something that I'm craving. And
Yeah.
then I can say, well, I can kind of push it because I know the car has the more to give than what I think it will.
Right.
Let's start that in April at pit race.
Yeah.
I'll take you around a few laps in the Civic.
Okay.
I would offer that if we give you the car with data in it and some video, that you don't necessarily have to have somebody in the car to diagnose what you're doing, because between the two of those, most of the let's say the instructor level, some of them, but most of the what I would call a good coach can get what you need out of it without being in the car. So don't get married to the right seat only.
No. I'm not saying it's like a right seat only, but I think that at some point throughout this year, I need to have it at least one time to start pointing out my bad. Somebody needs to see what I'm doing because, somebody physically needs to see what I'm doing and call me out on saying it. This is what I'm seeing that you're doing, and this is what I want you to do. And then I can practice that.
And somebody to push you.
Right.
So you've talked about some habits.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of your bad habits?
Well,
and Bill, we're talking about in the car.
Squirrel. Oh, squirrel.
Wait. I do know that I am not comfortable or to be working with, and I could use better footwork. I do know that I am not shifting properly when I should. I do know that, and I don't know why it has become a habit to where I'm missing things for my attentiveness. I think that I might have car control problems that I physically can't determine. So if they're like, I do know those things, but I think there might be things that they might see that I don't know about. Like, again, I haven't had an instructor in my car since 1, maybe early 2. And then, so I know that I've developed them. I have to have developed them. So I want a professional to say, have you tried this? Somebody had actually come to me like way into it and say, hey, when you're steering your car, not only should you pull down your steering wheel, but lift up at the same time. Little tricks, but right off the bat, that's some of the stuff that I could possibly think of first off.
And by the way,
I could have braking issues.
By the way, I hate that whole somebody saying, oh, you should always pull down on the steering wheel. And other people that say you should only ever push up on the, no, driving.
You do both.
Do
no,
both.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. When you pull down, also push up, So I'm like, I never thought about it that way,
Just turn the steering wheel. Yeah.
So, but, I think that everybody who has not at least had a coach in their car at least once, that they've developed habits that probably the person can see that you aren't even aware of. And those are the things that I want to correct to move forward.
So sometimes when I go coaching a driver, to Bill's point, I can use data and I can use video and I can stand in a corner and I can observe and I can find trends from what I see outside of the car and everything. But every now and then I just go, you know what? I need to be in the car with you. Sometimes it's like 5-6 laps. That's all it takes. And all it goes is like, oh, I noticed your foot's coming up off the floor, or the way you sitting in the car, or, I can see that you're not turning your head enough to look through the corner. There are some things like that that are just harder to see in the data and video. You can see them, but it takes a lot longer. And sometimes if you just ride in a car for 3 laps, you go, oh, there we go. We can fix a lot of this just by doing that.
I could be jerky with the car. I don't know. I could just, be maybe being too hard on the transmission. I don't know, but I would like to have that person in the car to say, okay, these are the things that I see. If you made some of these changes, you'll start seeing an improvement if you work on these.
Right.
And then the data will start following with it.
I think one thing that, especially with you being artistic and visual, that you would benefit from is to get a ride from somebody who's truly good in your car.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Any vehicle that I'm in, when I'm training, to have that one person drive, to see the limit of the car as they perform in it. Because that will translate to me going, the car has so much more to give than I believe it has to give. My own limitation.
Yeah.
So
what are you driving this year? Remind me.
Well, a couple.
Yeah.
But I'll be, the primary car that has shown up is the Miata, spec Miata. Because as you know, before I had the turbo, which was not benefiting me very much. At least Spec Miata, I can probably see what more I can pull out before I get too much heat under the hood. I'm also, of course, going to be driving the Honda Civic. I'll be racing with that one, so I have to flip back over to a front wheel drive. But I'm also planning VIR and maybe one more event in the BMW E46. So I have to select the car that I'm going to be actually going to be racing in, which it most likely would be the BMW.
Why do you make driving multiple cars on the racetrack sound so negative?
I'm not saying, it's just the choices that I have.
Damn, I've got to go racing another car this time.
No. But,
oh, man, what one to pick this time?
I don't mean it to sound like that.
God,
I do the same thing. I walk out to my garage in the morning and I look and I go, should I drive the McLaren or the Ferrari? Wait a minute, those are just models. Yeah, okay.
I have that conversation with myself quite often. Yeah, most weekends.
So, but does it matter? Does it really matter what I'm going to be training in?
Not really. I mean, ideally, you would do it in the car that you're going to be racing. Yeah, I mean, that would be the best. But what you learn, yes, there is if you're going to learn car control, what you learn in a front wheel drive car is going to be a little bit different than in a rear wheel drive car, just sort of how you adapt or how you deal with and manage the moving around of the car. But, most rear wheel drive cars are going to, what you're going to apply to the car is going to be the same. When and how much of that is going to change a little bit. But when you get used to a car moving around, whether it's front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, all wheel drive, if you're used to the car moving around, that's the biggest thing. And I think it's, a little bit to what Audra you mentioned was just that confidence in, okay, the car's moving around. It's okay. In fact, I like it when it moves around. That's when good stuff happens, really. And that's where
is that when you go out and you start like high-fiving the people in your pit when you first start doing it? Because that's what I did when I had it with the truck and I was sliding the back end around on 4 at Thompson. I was just like, I figured out how to slide the truck.
Were you doing the high-fiving while you were driving?
No, but I was certainly mentally high-fiving myself.
Yeah, because so there's another thing is how much time do you do mental imagery visualizing of the car moving around and you enjoying it?
The truck I was, yes, because I figured out how to do it.
You lied.
No, it was. I enjoyed when I finally figured out how to move the back end on that truck. I was having a blast with the truck. I was not having a problem with it.
The question, though.
If I asked you right now to close your eyes and imagine driving the BMW, for example, and you're on that ragged edge and you're on the brakes and the car is kind of doing that little wiggling around, dancing as it comes into the brake zone. And as you come off the brakes, the car kind of rotates in and kind of changes direction and the car is moving around and it's starting to slide and it's sliding out and you got to put a little bit of opposite lock in to catch it. And you commit to the throttle and you really commit to the throttle and the back end starts to stick and you come out of there and maybe you get a little bit of understeer, but it's okay. You just manage that with the steering and then you're like hardened and you're right out and you're right on that curbing at the exit and the thing's just like, and maybe even dropping a little bit of dust and dirt's kicking up as you're coming off the curbing and you come out of there. Can you do that? Like, can you imagine that? And doing that with a big smile on your face and go, this is fun.
I can, once I get the sensation for it. But yes, I can see it. And actually, I'm kind of seeing like Ghost Speed Racer at the same time, the whole cartoon happening in my head right now. But,
So if I said, okay, Vicki, I've set up a day of training, of car control training, and you're going to go and you're going to get the car sideways and the car is going to be moving around and you're going to plant your foot in the throttle and you're going to catch it with the steering and you're going to do all those things. To me, it would be a waste if you didn't do some of that before you went. Because if you go there going, what am I getting myself into?
Right.
This is going to be, I'm going to feel tense and I'm going to be a little fear and anxiety and all that kind of stuff, you're not going to learn as much. So
Right.
starting with like almost as much around just your mental state of the car moving around, that's a good thing.
And it's
Like,
going to be fun.
and it's going to be fun. And you know what?
Yeah.
Every now and then on the skid pad or where you're doing your training, you're going to get sideways and then, oh, the car's going to go around. Oh, well, I just learned something. Yeah. And not that, oh, I can't do that. It's, I didn't do it that time. I'm going to get it next time.
Right.
Because that's a different thing. So, going there in the right state of mind is important.
That's a good idea. That's good. It's good stuff.
Okay. So what else? We fixed all that? No.
I think we're done.
We haven't answered anything. I still have a piece of paper that has no decisions made.
So what are the specific questions, Bill?
Well, it's going to have to be a when and where. So I need to figure out the track, and then I need to figure out the options of those who are close to the tracks. And does that get involved with like an HPDE day, or is that like
Probably.
Okay? All right.
So I have an idea.
What's that?
How about Carolina Motorsport Park?
With Johan?
Yeah.
So it's up to her. I'm just here to look pretty.
Now, I don't mean to be rude. Tell me again about Johan.
Johan Schwartz. Johan's one of his claims to fame is he is the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest slide drift. Where in a BMW, started going around in a circle on the skid pad and spent hours in a drift to the point where they were refueling the car while he was drifting.
How does he?
They worked this out, and they actually had somebody leaning out with a dry brake system, plugging it in and refueling the car. So it is, I can't remember what it is, but it's some like ridiculous number of hours that he spent going in circles sideways.
Was he going for the Guinness Book of World Records?
Yes, that was the whole purpose. And he did.
Wow.
Yes.
And he made it.
And he made it. So he's, his car control is unbelievable. He's a great, I have sent 2 drivers that I coach, have coached in pro racing to him for specific training in car control. And I go, and a couple of times I've gone where, I'll go and sort of observe and throw in some things and say, hey, I really want you to work on this. So he's kind of one of my guys. He's one of my guys. He's my guy on the East Coast where I go, okay, this is, if you really want to work some car control skills, go spend a day with Johan. And it's a day, and it's a workout. So, and I don't know, you'd have to work it out with him, but you're going to probably go through some tires.
He drifted for 51.278 miles straight.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, actually not straight in a circle.
Well, in a circle, but continuously.
What was the time frame on that, Bill?
It doesn't say. He did in 8 hours. He did 232 miles at another time. So roughly 2 hours. Just doing math.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I would say that is a very strong option. And I think right now that would be my number one choice. The next step in this would be, you could go to a racing school or something. I think that you would gain more out of having one coach work with you for a day. And in this case, not in a HPDE environment. The best, because the downside, let's say you and I went to pick your track, Pit Race or Lime Rock or you name the track. You and I go there. And if it's like, okay, you have 5 sessions during the day, that is not as productive as if we went to a track that it's an open lapping day.
Right.
And I could say, Vicki, I want you to go out and I want you to run 6 laps, and I'm going to ride with you. I'm just going to look for those things. We come in, we stop. I go, I want you to go back out now and do 10 laps. And all I want you to do is focus on this one thing that I saw you do. You go and do that. We come back in and we debrief. And then if we've got some kind of a schedule we've got to hit with, these sessions happening at X time, it's just not as productive. Because there's going to be times where we're going to go, okay, now we're waiting. Yeah, we can talk about things, but it's not as good.
And that was the one thing that was in the back of my mind when I was thinking about bringing a coach out and then trying to coordinate it with that.
Yeah. And if there are times where if the session is whatever it is, 20 minutes long, 30 minutes long, you feel like you've got to go and drive for 20 or 30 minutes. But there are times where I just want you to go run 6 laps and just work on this one thing, then stop. And that 6 laps could be, could be 10, 20, 12 minutes, whatever, right? And that is going to be way more productive. You would learn more in a day like that than you would in 10 HPDE days.
Yeah.
So, are they harder to find that kind of an open lapping day? Yes, they are.
Yeah.
But they're around, and you just have to find who's got some kind of event going on. Sometimes there's an event going on, and on the Thursday or the Friday before the weekend or something, there's an open track day that has that kind of no specific set schedule. Just cars can come and go whenever they want.
Right.
Not that I was looking at this earlier, but March 14th and 15th are schedulable with Johan at his Total Car Control Clinic at CMP. So,
wow.
Yep. Yeah. And, not to go way out of my way here, but if anybody else is listening to this and you want some car control skills, Johan is a great guy. He's on the East Coast. If you're on the West Coast, Fast Sideways and
Nick Romano.
Nick Romano. Thank you. I was sitting there going, Nick. Anyways, so Nick Romano is my guy on the West Coast. And sorry, I don't have a specific person in place to go in the middle of the country, but those are my go-to guys for car control training. They're both really good guys, and they know what they're doing.
Now you've got so much to think about. You know what you've done, Ross? You've made her even more confused.
No. Now, I mean, it makes, the coach or Johan and working with an open track day. So coordinating the open track day makes it easier for me to think about that.
And I would
easier to coordinate.
And I would do it in the order of car control training first, and then a coach for a open track day.
I like that. I would agree 100% with that.
Yeah.
And then come with me, bring Bill along to the Nürburgring and Spa in September just to have some fun.
Oh, don't you worry, Ross. We've got that on the plan,
So I got to tell you this. I know, and this is not I'm not totally, well, I'm kind of serious, but not really serious about this. But so Stephen Thomas, the fellow that I've been coaching for the last 5 years, started the first time he drove on the track was just over 5 years ago, won Le Mans 3.5 years in, and towards the end of his second year, I had him do a day of car control training with Johan, and we had him driving different cars and stuff like that, and I spent all this time coaching him. But then I said, come to the Nürburgring with me. So he came to the Nürburgring, and one of the things that happened was I took him for a ride around the Nürburgring, and I remember him kind of going, wow, the car is moving around a lot. And then he went and drove the Nürburgring, and he came back from that experience a different driver.
A different person.
Yeah, because first of all, I mean, the confidence that you gain by being able to drive the Nürburgring, and by the way, it takes prep, it takes a lot of time. So, it may not fit into other plans, and it's not for everybody. But if you really make the commitment to focusing on really learning the Nürburgring and getting to the point where you can go and drive it, I don't recommend people drive the Nürburgring at 9/10 unless they're getting paid a lot of money to do so. But if you drive around at 6/10, yeah, it's still fun. It's a blast. But if you can drive at 8/10, it's a bigger blast. And so, and you come back with the confidence of, maybe I didn't master the Nürburgring, but what I've learned from putting all that together is just, it makes you a different driver. You're different after that. And it made a difference to Stephen. Yeah.
Wow.
Someday, a really good friend of mine went there this summer, John Kennelly, and had an amazing time.
Yep. Yes.
I drive at 10 tenths on Gran Turismo 7.
Perfect. Perfect.
So,
It's almost
so
the
is
same.
Yeah.
It's like the Mecca for race drivers.
I have to tell you, and I don't want to get off on a tangent here around the Nürburgring, but when we go, we take this, a group of drivers there, and it's a really cool trip because we do the Nürburgring for a couple of days, and then we do Spa, and Spa is everything that you've ever heard about that circuit. It is just incredible. I personally, I would rather spend a day at Spa than I would at the Nürburgring because I love driving at the limit. And even at the Nürburgring, depending on the car I'm driving, I'm going to leave a little bit more of a margin. And I would rather drive Spa at the ragged edge than the Nürburgring at 9.5 tenths. So that's just my own personal preference. But when we go, we also do some really cool stuff like amazing dinners in the evening for the group. And this past summer on our trip, we had a day off. We did Spa for a day off, and then 2 days at the Nürburgring. And on that day off, everybody drove the cars they were driving on the track from Spa to Nürburg, which is typically around an hour to an hour and a half drive on these amazing twisting roads. But we sent them on this tour of the Moselle Valley, and it was kind of magical. One of those days where you'd roll, you come along this mountain road and you'd come down and there'd be like this little village down in the valley by the Moselle River and vineyards all around. And everywhere you looked, there was one of our RSR cars with one of our trip mates in it. So it was just an amazing fun day. And darn it all, myself and Tom, my partner in these things, and Ron Simons from RSR, we had to move 3 Ferraris from Spa to Nürburg. So darn it all, we had to do that.
Sorry.
Oh, shucks,
Sorry.
that's rough.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Which ones were they?
A 550 Maranello. So that's like about a 2003, which ended up, by the way, to be my favorite. We had a 512. No, I mean, it's sort of a 599 and what was the other one? All the front engine GT Ferraris.
Oh, okay.
You know what?
It's a Ferrari.
They're all just Ferraris and toys. So I don't get really hung up on them, but I will say they're pretty cool and they sound really pretty.
My favorite one is the 488 GTB.
Yeah. Well, they're, it's hard to not like them.
Yeah, it is. Well, Jeremy gets to drive them for weekends at a time with extreme experience. So he routinely makes us feel very jealous.
Yeah.
yes.
Anyways, my point, I guess, is it's building that level of being comfortable with the car being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what it is. It's that the car control training, and then having the right coach who's going to push you in the right ways at the right time in the right amount. That's going to help you get to that next level. And you said you wanted to level up. I think that's kind of the way I see it. It's that, would going to Skip Barber or Lucas Oil School or Performance or you name this Allenberg School, you name one of those schools, would that do that? That wouldn't be my first choice. And by the way, I'm a big fan of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But where you are as a driver right now, I think they're going to reinforce some things, and they're going to, yes, they would fix a few of your habits. Well, I'm assuming I'm taking you for your word that you do have some bad habits, but they're going to help with those things, but you're not going to, I don't think they're going to push you to that next level.
Mm-hmm. I like that idea. Car control.
And I
Tough.
think for the start of this, Vicki, you need to stay in the Civic. You struggle a lot more with front wheel drive than you do rear wheel drive.
Okay.
That would be my suggestion.
So wait a minute. I have to take the cookie car?
Doesn't have to be a cookie.
car.
Hey, that car is actually pretty quick.
It is quick.
I mean,
As
Is
long
it
as the
the-
cookie's not on the roof.
I did a 217 bill or a 2 something like that at pit race
14, yeah.
with 100 horsepower. So yeah, that car's pretty quick.
Mhm.
Indeed. So
Sho-
let's
Showing up at a race event with a cookie car is just kind of something.
I'll just peel the cookies off.
Johan saw us with a skunk oil car, so it's fine.
That's true. That is true.
Captain's log supplemental.
So, Bill, guess what?
What?
We did the Sentinel. We did the
did?
Sentinel.
We did.
We
How did
we
you
were
like it?
You know what? We were talking about the Sentinel.
We have.
It was great. We understood watching how the Sentinel works,
Mhm.
but we finally got it into our car, and I got to tell you, that was really awesome. I was able to see every one of my mistakes.
We have hours of them.
We have hours of my mistakes,
That's right.
but we have hours of good stuff too, which is awesome. It actually showed us the speed. Did it show us where we were on track?
We were streaming it for
We were streaming it live.
we're boring billions of people across the world.
But it was pretty incredible. Plus, on it, you're able to put your insignia, your logos on
Yep.
on your app also, and the clarity was amazing. It was really easy to put in,
Was
easier
easy.
than I thought it was.
I know you
So-
kept making a big deal out of it. I'm like, it's really not that hard.
Actually,
Until we focused on it, it wasn't too bad. And then we got some help.
No.
It was pretty easy.
yeah, it was. It was pretty good.
You know what? I like the stream because some of the tracks we go to don't have great cell phone coverage, but it's got a USB stick backup. So I
Mhm.
just uploaded the high quality video without the cellular interruption. So
Mhm.
if you watched us earlier and said, "Wow, they got from there to there really quickly," you can watch the real video and see that no, we didn't. It's just a cell phone went out.
Mhm.
But-
Yeah. So the learning curve for me, obviously, I'm slightly techno Amish.
Slightly.
What slightly when it comes to the wiring and stuff like that, but we get it in, and I love it. We were able to sit there right at the track and watch what we were doing in the car, and that was amazing.
Which was good because if you have a problem with your radio, you can tell, if something is going on that you need to know about. Like
Hmm.
a couple times we've had cars come in and we didn't know they were broken. And I know it's hard to imagine one of our cars being broken, but whatever. But you can watch the video, and even with the cell phone coverage we had at that particular event, it was like a 30-second delay. So it wasn't bad.
Mhm.
And you can compare multiple drivers because you have each of the stints are broken up. So we got to work on not only our driving, but if we wanted to, we could work on our pit stops and see exactly what we do. And there's some things that we need to talk about as a team. And it was pretty good. Like I said, it takes me, once we got the wiring hooked up for the power, I probably could go from an empty shell to a full up setup running Sentinel. I could probably do that in like 20 minutes.
Mhm.
So you could literally install it in a car before a race. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And we got
When-
to see the driver and the front windshield. And if
Yep.
we want to, we can have three. We can see backwards. Or one of the guys we were going to work with at the upcoming event, he said, could you put a camera on the driver's eyes so we could see what they're looking at?
Mhm.
I said, why, yes, I can. Haven't done it yet, but I'll figure it out. I've got time.
Well, I love it.
All right. Very well. That sounds like I can buy another one then. Woo! So keeping it with our theme for this year, which I believe everybody on the team mentioned that they wanted to get better, but we're all at different spots on the path. So maybe we could go through with Audra and Jeremy and maybe even me and see where we are and what do you think the next increment could be. Does that seem?
That sounds fair, but I thought it was interesting, and maybe even me.
Maybe even me.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm better at hosting than I am at talking.
Okay,
Which
so who's
makes-
next?
So
next?
Ross,
I believe
real quick, So Bill, I'm not sure if he's admitted to you, but Bill went about a year and 9 months, Bill,
Yes.
without being in the driver's seat of a car.
No.
We finally got him back in the car this year.
In a race car. In a race, I had done.
Okay, let me apologize. In a race
hundreds of HPDs, but hundreds of hours. Anyway, that's fine. I believe we should go with ladies first. So Jeremy, where are you at?
Subtle.
Very subtle.
Thank you. And then we'll get to the real driver, Miss Audra.
I need to be pushed. That's all. We all have a lot to learn. We can all learn every single day. And I feel like if you ever think that you don't have anything to learn, then you need to get out of the car, because that's when bad things are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I need to be pushed. I'm an endurance racer through and through. If you put me in a car and you tell me I need to go out and run, 135s, I'm going to go out and run 135s. Doesn't matter what the traffic is. Doesn't matter what's going on. I'm going to run 135s.
But
I need to be pushed. I want to be pushed to run the car at the limit for lap after lap after lap. So my goal over the next year, little more maybe, depending on what happens, I want to go out and get coached and do some sprint races so that I'm forced to do that.
are you saying you get too comfortable behind the wheel?
No, I'm not saying I get too
Okay.
comfortable. I'm just saying that I have an endurance race, and it's all about preservation. So I don't run over 8/10.
Oh, I see.
And it might, everybody's tenths are different, right? So we had this year at NJMP, we did a grid life HPDE, and we had a coach come in, a data coach, and I went out and I did, I don't know what, 7 laps within 0.6 of each other, and
in
then,
traffic.
And then the data coach said, okay, well, you need to do this. Pull up your pants, be a big boy, and took 2.5 seconds consistently off, something like that.
I have the numbers, but I didn't pull them up.
So I just need someone, I want to be the best I can be. And, I know where my comfort level is, and I just need someone to help me get rid of my bad habits and push the limit.
Do you need an in-car coach?
We all have bad habits. That's not, it's
right.
So I need to be
Ross,
pushed. That's what I need.
So Ross, how do you get Jeremy to stop being Jeremy?
Surgery.
Okay. You can do that.
Right, like just.
So I'm going to be
the
Jasmine
forehead.
now.
Yeah.
You could lose 10 pounds by getting rid of the beard, but
Yeah. So the question, Jeremy, is why don't you push yourself? Like, what's stopping you from going, okay, I'm at that point, I want more. Like you have the right attitude of I want to get better, but what's stopping you from pushing yourself?
Self-preservation.
Okay.
You need a car control clinic.
Yeah,
I do. I really want a car control clinic.
But so is it?
Why don't you come down with Johan with me?
A lot of it, I think, Ross, is that I don't have any interest in wadding a car up again. So there's a lot of
right.
Self-preservation.
it's also a team that you're usually racing with, and you don't want to screw up for the team. I know that.
Right. And that's the thing is, like I said, I do endurance racing. So, it's all about making sure the car is preserved for the next driver. But even when I'm out doing HPDEs, I don't want to put a wrecked car on the trailer. That's what's stopping me. And my personal belief in myself, I guess, is not high enough for me to push it to the limit by myself.
Yeah.
So Jeremy, you did have a pretty devastating wreck. I mean, you were fine, but is that always still in the back of your mind right now? Do you think that incident
a little bit
is preventing you? Because that's what happened to Jennifer for like 2 years. I would say 2 cars.
I think that incident last year has definitely,
what can happen.
Yeah, it's prevented me. It's prevented me from pushing myself without having someone next to me going, "Hey man, you can do this. Like just go. Like you can do this."
Right. So part of it is, it sounds like, if you have somebody else that says the car and you are capable of going 2 seconds a lap faster without a big risk involved, you would go and do that. But if you just said to yourself, I'm going to go 2 seconds a lap quicker, you're going, but that's probably too much risk.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I think I would agree with that.
So how long have you been doing this? Like, how long have you been tracking, driving on track and stuff?
5, 6 years.
Okay. How many?
Really?
6, 7 years, maybe.
Didn't you start before we did?
Probably around the same time.
Okay, so this is your 7
17?
for us. This is your
17, something like
yes.
that.
So this is your 8 for you.
Yeah.
So take a wild guess of how many laps you've turned.
Gosh. 1,000 plus.
More than 1,000.
Oh,
Yeah.
Bill's probably got a spreadsheet for it, but
Yeah, Bill's got a spreadsheet somewhere. Wait a minute. Give him like a day and he'll have it for you. He'll email it tomorrow.
yeah.
God, honestly, I have no idea.
It would be close to 5,000, Jeremy. Easy.
At least.
So let's
At
just take
least.
that number of 5,000. And let's say on average, there are 6 to 10 corners in each of those laps. Let's say 10 corners, just to make the math easier. That means you've driven 50,000 corners on a track. How many times have you crashed?
Once.
Okay. So the good news is that
I can do the percentages for you if you want.
1,000 corners to drive before statistics show that you may crash again.
That's math for stop being a baby.
But part of it is, I know you need to kind of just look at it logically and go, you know what? You drive on a track, and I often say the Nürburgring, 14 miles long, right? Take the 2 best drivers in the entire world, put them on opposite ends of the track. Eventually, they will find each other and they will run in and crash into each other. It'll happen eventually.
Yeah.
But
What is somebody once told me? It says not about if you're going to crash, it's going to be when you're going to crash.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to happen. And the good news is you've done that. The likelihood of you crashing again has actually gone down. So, and it's probably a long ways off. With every time you drive, every corner you drive, you get better at catching it. When, the time that you're most likely to crash is early in your career, when the car steps out and you don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. The more you drive and the more you improve your car control, you get to the point where it's like, okay, the car's stepping up. I got it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The corner was messy. I didn't get a good lap that lap, but I'm still driving. So some of it is just like, be logical, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also,
my thing is, I just want somebody to push me. Like,
right.
I'm 8/10 driver. Like, every once in a while I'll get a 10/10 lap, but I'm an 8/10 driver. Like that's, so I need somebody to push me.
Okay.
And also, Jeremy, think about that wreck that you did have. That was the weekend of all the weather that we had at pit race. So,
well, I also got hit that put me into that wreck. So it wasn't even solely solely my fault. So,
but the issue was it was a freshly built car that they
hurt.
Had that just
hurt.
put on the track.
Yeah.
And but you got to make peace with yourself with that one, because there was wrecks all over that track at every time they lifted the flags.
And
mm-hmm.
Not to argue with you, Vicki, but you said, think about that crash. I'm going, no, that's behind you.
Right. But I'm just I'm trying to get him to say, make peace with it, because
and let it go.
It happens.
I did.
Okay,
the first
good.
The first, when we went back to pit race, the first 10 laps, it was, I didn't even touch the gas going up over the hill, turn 2. And then finally I was like, okay, I've got this. Let's go.
Okay.
And that was all right. And I never thought about it again the whole entire race.
So Jeremy, I've heard you now a few times say I'm an 8/10 driver. So I remember a bunch of years ago, I was doing what I call an inner speed secrets workshop. And I had drivers, I just said, okay, everybody close your eyes. imagine yourself on the pace lap of a race. You're coming around to the green flag. You're coming up to the green flag. Here you come. You're coming onto the front straightaway. The starter's up there. They're just about to throw the green flag. Stop. Where are you on the grid? And there were drivers that said, I'm on pole. And there are other drivers that said, I'm 8th. I'm like, I never told you that you're starting 8th. Why did you, to those drivers, why did they think they were 8th? Because that's their belief system. I've heard you a few times now say, I'm an 8/10th driver. So part of it is you need to change your programming, your belief system that I'm an 8/10th driver. Just start thinking about this, doing mental imagery around it, like starting to think about it, going, now when I go to the track, that was the old Jeremy. The new Jeremy this year pushes. And I'm not saying ragged 10/10ths, stupid stuff, but what if you dial it up to 9? And when you got and while you're doing that mental imagery, you kind of almost like there's like a knob right here, just below your neck. And you kind of just go, just dial it up one more notch. Now I'm a 9. And you go out in the track and you see yourself driving the car. And the car, it's that you're imagining somebody's just said, come on, Jeremy, there's another 2 seconds in the car. Go get at least a second. And now you go out there and you get that second. And you do that enough times. And then you go to the track and you go, dial it up to 9. And then you go out and you drive and you start to build on that. And it's which comes first, the belief that you can do it or being able to do it? Yes. They both, they come together.
Okay.
So
I'll give it a shot. I will, I'll take that advice and I appreciate that. And I will give it a shot, but back to where are you right now? You had me stop at start finish. I'm car number 1 looking at the green flag.
Good.
There you go.
Good.
Lies. No worries.
Yeah.
So Miss Audrey.
Basically, I need to put my big boy pants on.
Yes.
But you need to have somebody there, just for second assurance. I've volunteered many times. I will be right seat for you anytime, sir.
And just go and walk on water. Well, that's kind of stupid advice, right?
Yeah.
But if I could come along and say, hey, I have a strategy and this will work. We put this little beam that's just under the water and it looks like you're walking on water, then you can do it. And it's the same thing. I mean, just go and drive faster. Okay. Have a little bit more of a plan to it than just that. And
I'm going to pick the lap apart, figure out one corner.
I've got something that'll help you
see
too.
That corner, get that corner perfect till I feel that there's no more left in that corner. Then go to the next corner. Then go to the next braking zone. Then.
Yep. Dial it up. Yeah. So I don't know what, if you'll ever have me back on another episode, but I'd like to come back for another episode and have you go, yeah, I'm a 9/10 driver now.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll be a full driver soon, Jeremy.
I'll be a big boy.
Big boy.
Captain's log supplemental.
So we here at Garage Heroes in Training thought it might be fun to have a listener league for Fantasy F1. So we did some sampling last year. We tried, I think 5 or 6 different Fantasy F1 sites, and we found one that we like. It's called Grid Rivals. And if you're interested in a Fantasy F1 league, we have a league set up in there called Friends of GHiT. And the link to join is in the episode notes. So if you feel like having fun with some other listeners and team members of Garage Heroes in Training, please come on in. We've got about 2 more weeks before the F1 season starts, and the league will be going. It should take, if you haven't ever done this before, maybe 5 or 10 minutes per race weekend. So it's not a big time commitment, but hopefully you can have fun and we can see how everybody does. And good luck to everybody who joins. Thanks, everybody. So Miss Audra is a longtime autocrosser transitioning into track and doing it quite well. But Miss Audra, Talk
I'm
to
a
us.
1/10 driver.
I said long time, not one time.
Yeah,
So-
I guess it's the transitioning from autocross to track. Autocross, it's very active, and I get called out from instructors of being too not being smooth enough with any of my inputs. So that's been a struggle.
sometimes sometimes that's a good thing. And the point I guess I want to make is sometimes we can be so focused on being smooth that we're slow. Like, hey, one way to be really smooth, drive around the track at 1 mile an hour. You will be smooth. So there are times with drivers where I'll go, okay, you're great. All the skills are there, all the techniques are there. Now it's time to go get messy and trust all the programming, all the practice that you've had from autocrossing. Just trust that it's not the end of the world. To me, like most drivers, when they first learn to drive, everything's like, be smooth, be smooth, be smooth. So they get smooth, they get smooth, they get smooth, but they're not, and they get a little faster, but it's not like a big breakthrough. The next breakthrough is go get messy, throw the car around. And it's a little bit the same with you, Vicki, is just like throw the car around, have it move around. Yeah, okay. You may be way offline because you are over driving the car, but you kind of need to do that for a little while. And then once you're used to the car moving around and you over driving it, then you can go, okay, now I'm going to start to, I like to think about it as I'm going to dampen my control movements. Like instead of the wheel turning quickly like this, it's just, I'm going to just dampen it a little bit, and the same thing with your footwork. Instead of like this, it's a little bit, think about putting a big heavy blanket over your feet, and it kind of slows them down a little bit. So it's that kind of a thing. But if you do that too soon in your development, you won't be fast, or it's harder to be fast. So sometimes don't get overly caught up in the, I got to be smooth, I got to be smooth, I got to be smooth. And to be fair, I've not seen you drive. So I'm going in what I've seen in trends, or kind of general trends that I've seen of drivers. Sometimes just think about it as, how are you fast in autocross? What worked for you in autocross?
I have actually some really bad autocross habits as well. And it's, diving to the cones and like jamming it over, just going for it.
Sometimes when you go on the track, just do that. Just attack more. And, again, you probably have spent some time now, as you've done more track stuff, thinking more about, the radius of the corner and the line and all the right stuff, doing all the right techniques at the right place. So you've done that for a while. You've kind of taken the autocross stuff, you've adapted to the line and all of that smoothness stuff. But maybe again, I don't know where you are in this development path, but maybe what you need to do now is just stop thinking about all of those techniques and the smoothness part of it, and just attack, go drive. And then once you do that for a while, then you can think, okay, now I'm at this next level, I'm going to smooth out that level. Mm-hmm. And when you get consistently smooth at that level, then dial it up again, attack some more. And then, then you're messy again, but then work on being smoother there. So sometimes to get to the next level, you just have to attack. I'm not going to use Jeremy's terms of putting your big boy's pants on, but sometimes you just have to push to get through that part of it. And, yes, it's easy for me to sit here and say that. Just go faster.
Well, there's that. And then, if you do that at autocross and you push harder and you spin out, you do whatever, you knock over a couple of cones, who cares? You do that on the track, You could knock out a couple of cars, you can knock out your own car, there's things in the way.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, and Jeremy, you kind of touched on a little bit, is pick the right places to do it. Like there are certain corners where if you overdrive, nothing terrible is going to happen. Those are the places to experiment with the most. If there are some other corners where, it's a very fast corner and there's, 3 feet of runoff room until there's a guardrail or a tire wall, that's probably not the place to push it that much. Get used to pushing it in some other places where there's a little bit more of a safety margin.
Okay.
Just go to Gingerman. There's nothing to hit except for one place.
Yeah.
Really?
There's one turn.
I've never been there.
Anything. It's amazing if you want to push.
Eric wants me to come there.
I love it. It's great.
It's a great track. It's got a nice combination of different types of corners too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they'll let you run it backwards too. Backwards is so fun. You feeling like you know what to do now, Miss Audra? Or...
Yes.
Okay.
Step one.
Step one.
Easy to say. So I'm not going to say that you're just going to go out there and boom, it's going to happen. But if you're working towards that, and part of it is that mental model that we get that race drivers, the best race drivers are smooth and silky smooth and all that. But they attack and they are aggressive with the car.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to kind of be like that and then dial that back and get smoother. If I look at in-car video of Max Verstappen versus Lewis Hamilton versus Lando Norris versus Max Verstappen is smoother with the wheel than those other guys. And some people go, okay, yeah, it's just the Red Bull car is that much superior. No, he spent a lot of years being super aggressive with the car. And now I'm going to say that he's gotten smoother in the past 3 years. His whole driving has gotten better in the last 3 years. And he's at a whole other level than he was before. But he went through a period in a Formula One car where he was over driving the car, hyper aggressive with it. And then he's just kind of fine tuned it and smoothed it out. But if you start the opposite way of, I'm going to be smooth, I'm going to be smooth, I'm going to be smooth, it's harder to build up to fast.
Huh.
I heard Tom O'Gorman on his podcast. He said that the goal is for the car to be smooth, not necessarily the driver to be smooth.
Yeah.
And I think people get confused.
Yes. If you, and I want to be a little careful here because sometimes I'll watch in-car video and there's a driver going through the corner and they're just sawing away at the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, why are you doing that? And they're like, well, I'm feeling the limits of the car. And you're going, no, actually you're causing a limit to the car by doing that. Stop doing that. And what really is they watch some in-car video of some race driver and their hands were moving, and it's the race driver's hands are moving because there's the feedback from the wheel. So it's that part that's causing that. So don't deliberately move your hands around. But if you ever go through the corner, and sometimes I'll look at video of a driver and I just watch their hand movement and I go, they go through the corner, they turn the wheel and they straighten it out and there's no movement of the wheel. And you're like, okay, you're doing everything right. You're just not near the limit. So push more.
Ross, I'm gonna say I have a bad habit of when I'm right seating with those kind of people that are nowhere near the limit. I have a bad habit of reaching over and grabbing the steering wheel, holding it, and preventing them from doing that.
Yeah.
That is it. Oh, I'm looking for grip. No, you're not. No, you're not at the limit. You're not even close. Like this, you're not looking for grip. You're doing something because you saw a race driver correcting a car at one point.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me feel fast if I'm moving my hands around. Yeah. But to Tom's point, and I agree 1,000% that sometimes the car can be in this beautiful, smooth arc, and I'm not going to say like a big drift through the corner, but there's some slip angle going on there. And if you looked inside, the hands would be moving, the feet would be moving, there's action going on. But the result is the car looks smooth. So there's a big part of it. I think sometimes we get this mental model. Again, I touched on this a minute ago, is we get this mental model of drivers are smooth. Yes, but the car is smooth. You need to attack and then smooth out the attack.
Like a duck swimming.
Okay. I get it. It took me a minute there. Yeah. Those little feet down under the water that you don't see, right?
Yeah, they're doing stuff.
They're doing stuff. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I have a suggestion, Audra. If you want to see that, if you want to see a perfect example of that, go watch.
I'm right here, Jeremy.
Yeah, watch Bill drive. No, seriously though, go watch some in-car and some out-of-car videos of Mount Panorama, like specifically the Bathurst, like 12-hour, 24-hour, something like that. You want to see a car that looks unbelievably smooth from the outside, but you want to see a driver that is going 100 miles an hour inside the car. Watch some of that.
Okay, thanks.
There's another, I have a short video on my phone. I think it's still there. It's been a while, but I used to use this a lot, and it's of Tony Stewart driving a sprint car on dirt. And, they come down the straightaway and the car just goes, and it's in this big drift, and it's just beautiful to watch. Just perfect arc all the way through there. But you can actually see the front tires going, because he's like this all the way through, just dancing with the car. But from the outside, if you're just kind of looking from the back, the car just looks beautifully smooth all the way around. But boy, is he busy. Yeah.
Oh, it's helpful.
So you're going to be champion then, Audra?
Well, maybe I'll do 2 10s.
Okay, very good. Very good.
No,
Come on.
We're Audra, we're gonna get you real fast this year.
I have right seated with Audra, and there is one thing that I can say for 100% sure: she is not at 210s.
She's not scared of the gas pedal.
No. And she's got car control to catch it if something goes wrong. So it's fine.
She really truly does, Ross. She's selling herself short. She's a very good driver. I think the one thing that Audra struggles with in the new endurance racing is traffic management.
Yeah, that is definitely true. That is an issue for me as well.
You didn't pass many people when you were autocrossing.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, no.
So here's well, first of all, racecraft is, I think, the most difficult thing to teach, because the best way to learn it is just experience. Now, there are things you can do. You can go to an indoor go-karting facility and just drive, they're relatively cheap, right? In the grand scheme of things, they're really cheap. And just go and drive a bunch of times, and just, you're behind other carts and you're thinking, how am I going to pass? And then you're like, because you have no mirrors, you sense when there's another cart behind you. So there's a bunch of things that you could do there. Sim racing makes a difference. I believe, like, as you drive on the road, you play the game of, you're looking ahead, and the game is, and obviously you have to do this safely, but the game is, you should always know where every other car is around you at any moment in time, without having to do a big, this. Like, you're just aware, and you're looking ahead, but peripherally you're seeing the rearview mirror, you're seeing your side mirrors, and you're driving along and you're going, there's a blue car back there behind me. I notice it now in my, it's moved over in the left lane. It's coming up there. And you're constantly playing with predicting and being aware of all the traffic around you when you're driving on the road. And that will actually make a difference, because when you're on the track, a lot of times you don't have time to make a big head movement to look in the mirror. So that's a big part of it. The other part of it, which gets more difficult, is how close can I be to another car? And when you first start wheel-to-wheel racing, most drivers' instinct is, I'm going to stay as far away as possible from that other car because it feels safer. But what you learn is if you're only an inch away from that other car, the other driver is more likely to see you. Plus, if that driver turns into you, it's just a little bump. If you're 3 car lengths away, 3 car widths away, and that driver turns in and hits you, it's a big hit. So that comes with experience. And as silly as this sounds, when you go into a parking lot, if you just drove around parking lots and you pulled into parking spots and got better at that spatial awareness, and I'm not saying you're not good at it now, but the best race drivers have really good spatial awareness, and they can pull into a parking lot, like almost into a parking spot without even really looking. It's just like they drive up and it's in their mind's eye. It's kind of like, I see that spot over there and I see that path and I go into it. So that's all part of racecraft. And yeah, it's difficult to teach, but the one other thing you could do on that not private, but that open test day that Vicky's doing is you could find a partner and you go on track and you just drive deliberately, like some of the organizations do, set up kind of passing, driving side by side drills.
Mhm.
And you just go out with a partner and you go, every time you come on a straightaway, we're going to change positions, and you just deliberately pass and pass and pass. And and the goal is to never be surprised or get to the point where you can sense where that other car is.
Okay.
But it takes you need to find a partner to do that with.
Vicki will be doing plenty of that at Mid-Ohio in April.
Okay. On the newly surfaced Mid-Ohio.
I know. I don't know
really?
what to expect.
It's going to be odd.
What's going on in Mid-Ohio in April?
She's doing a Great Lakes event.
Oh, nice.
Hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Be heading
All right,
out.
Bill.
What
You're
about
not getting
you,
out of
honey?
this. You're not getting
Nope.
out of this, Bill. Ross, don't let him get out
Well,
of
Ross, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, I know with Bill, we need another 2 hours.
Yeah, probably. There's so much to fix. It's
Yeah.
amazing. So let's see, where am I?
Where are you at with your driving now?
I've done endurance racing. I've done HPDE through instructor and racing comp school. Last year I did my first sprint race where I actually tried to go as fast as I could for a lap, which was very different for me.
Mm-hmm.
So this year I've got a couple endurance races, but I've got a few more sprint races set up for this year.
Perfect. That's
So I think the transition was last year. I wanted to go from being a better driver to being a faster driver, which doesn't sound like they're very different, but to me, in my head, they were. And you know that if there's one thing I do, it's overthink. So, that's my goal for this year, is to see where I could be in a spec type series. So it's apples to apples. And it doesn't matter to me if I'm first, last, middle, whatever. I want to start wherever I am and then proceed to get better, because I don't think I'm where I could be.
Well, as usual, you figured a lot of that out on your own by overthinking it. Yes, I think, and I can't remember if we talked about this last year, but the idea of doing more sprint races, I think, is important. And so pushing yourself in those sprint race formats, I think, is super important. Where is there speed in your driving, do you think? Like if I took, you mentioned Tom O'Gorman,
Yeah.
put Tom in your car,
Mm-hmm.
and he did some laps, and then you did some laps.
Mm-hmm. Where the
How much
difference
faster would you be than Tom?
Tom would beat me by
And I'm not taking anything away from Tom. No.
4 to 5 seconds, depending on the length of the track, maybe more.
So where do you think the biggest differences are going to be? Are they corner min speeds? Are they back to power? Are they braking?
I think corner min speed for sure. And I think from what I can see, well, if it's wet, I've got no chance. So there's that. Corner min
that
speed for
answer?
sure. And then I think he has a not necessarily earlier break, but maybe a shorter break than I do. And he can keep the car a little flatter through the turn than I probably do. Like I may be a little too, it's hard to tell because I'm not that good with data yet. It's something I'm working on. I may be a little too abrupt and unintentionally upsetting the car.
Well, it's interesting when you went to the min speed, which I probably would have guessed, because that's usually, when you have a driver of Tom's caliber,
Mhm.
where they usually are better is consistently higher min speeds and less time at min speed as well.
Mhm.
Sometimes, sometimes we can look at it and go, yeah, my min speed's only 1 mile an hour slower than that driver. Yeah, but you're spending 3 seconds at that min speed,
yeah.
where they're spending 3/10 of a second at that min speed. So some of it is that. But normally I would say that the biggest differences are going to be in corner min speed. And my first reaction is, so just brake lighter.
Mhm.
Just
See, that's where I think too much, and I try and figure out, should I just brake earlier and smoother and keep the platform more stable and try to roll more speed through? Because some turns that works pretty well for me, but then other times I'm like, I'm not like, if you were to say, what type of driver are you? I'm not the last of the late breakers. I'm not the, the
Mhm.
the
One word would be conservative.
Yeah, for sure. And the limit is something for me to strive towards, not pull myself back to.
So don't brake any earlier. Brake where you are now.
Mhm.
But and you probably have a spreadsheet for this, or if you don't yet, you will by the
I can
an
add a
hour from now.
tab. Don't worry.
I was going to say it's already going to be done by the episode over.
Yeah. Pick your track, name list the corner numbers, and go wherever you're braking. What pedal are you using? Are you at a 10 pedal?
So the trick, Crossing
right
Ross,
on the threshold?
it's the brake pedal, Ross. That's what pedal I'm using.
Okay. But is it a 10 pedal? Is it a 7 pedal? Is it a 9 pedal? Like, what, on a scale of 1 to 10,
Mhm.
how hard are you using the brakes? And let's say in turn 5, you're at a 9, you're using a 9 pedal. You're
Mhm.
braking at a not quite threshold, but almost right there. Brake at 8. And your goal is, in doing that, you're going to enter the corner. The car is not going to be quite so much staying up on his nose. It's going to be a little bit better balance. It's going to be a little flatter. It's going to have more grip. And now carry 2 miles an hour more in and through the corner.
Right.
Just 2 more by going from a 9 pedal to an 8 pedal. If you had said, well, I don't brake that hard in that corner and I'm only braking at a 7, then brake at a 6. Basically take 1 notch off of your scale and just brake. And again, I'm not saying go from a 9 pedal to a 5 pedal. Just brake a little bit lighter. And if you have data, the great thing is that after a session, you can overlay one of your previous sessions with one of your latest sessions, and you can look at it and you go, okay, just, that looks like I've taken 1 notch out of them, just a little bit lighter. If you look at your data and go, the brake trace is the same amount, or the decel rate or the longitudinal G's are the same, then you haven't done that. You got to go back on track and you got to go and do it more. You have to stay after class and do more laps.
Damn it.
But
I hate when that
do
happens.
it until you.
Oh, shucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it until you consistently brake lighter. And you carry 1, 2, maybe 3 at the most more miles an hour through the corner. And that may or may not result in a faster lap time. Often it does. But even if it doesn't, the goal is get used to that cornering speed. And then And then once you're doing that consistently over time, then you can go, okay, now I feel comfortable actually compressing my brake zone a little bit. We've talked about different ways to use the brakes before, but that's the process. Don't go, oh, I want to try to carry more speed in the corner, so I'm going to brake later. No, don't bother doing that. Just brake lighter.
Yeah. I think last year's focus for me in terms of trying to get faster was to get back to full throttle sooner. And that worked a lot for me. So this might be the other side of the turn.
Yeah. So work the other side of it. And then you may get to the point where, okay, I'm carrying so much entry speed now that it's hurt my exit speed. Okay, good. You've gone a little too far that way.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can just dial it back a little bit.
Yeah, because looking at me as a driver, I don't go off the track. Like, so there's definitely room to be had. Like if you said how many times have you gotten into an accident on track, I could say 1. And if you said how many times have you gone off the track, I could say 5 ever.
Yeah.
So there's room.
And have you gotten better at that? And what I mean by that, like
better at not going off the track?
Yes. Like again, early on, you make a mistake and you don't recognize it soon enough. And
I recognize it pretty early.
Slide off the track. And now, you're at a point where you make that same mistake, but you recognize it sooner. And now you start to make an adjustment. And you run wide of the apex, you're messy, all that kind of stuff, but you don't fall right off the track.
Right. Yeah. I notice it quite early and usually adjust so that it doesn't happen. So, but that sacrifices some lap time, and perhaps I do it too early or too much more than I need.
So, this could almost sum up this conversation with all of you in a way is, what's your objective? Is the objective to get that one fast lap time? Or is
Ultra does that already.
Okay.
It's her autocross background. She can't help it.
0 laps.
Is it to learn? And if you keep, you learn more by experimenting and trying things. Mm-hmm. And even if they result in a mistake and you run wide and you go, oh, yeah, but I ruined that lap. Yeah, but think of what you just learned from that. So part of it is you have to kind of ask yourself, why are you doing this? If it's, I only want to turn perfect laps without ever making a mistake, that's okay. If that's what your goal is. But if your goal is, I want to go faster, you're going to have to be okay with making a few mistakes.
Right. We'll get there.
I think you learn a lot more from your mistakes than you do from just going out and lapping and lapping and lapping and not making any.
Yeah. I can remember many years ago, this was in my first year of racing a Formula Ford, and I'm a young kid. I'm there, and there's all the old timers at the track, and there was a race, and I think it was in the race, I spun and then got going again and got back and did okay, but I didn't win because of that. And I remember one of the old timers come up to me and goes, you'll never win if you spin. And I can kind of go, I can remember going, thank you very much, sir. And walking away going, yeah, but I've never seen you drive your car anywhere near the limit. You will never, ever make a mistake. And by the way, because of that, you're never going anywhere with your racing. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. He was perfectly happy doing that. But, his idea of going racing was you never, ever make a mistake. And to do that, you drive around at a speed that you'll never make a mistake. Yeah. I believe actually sometimes you will, even just through boredom. So that's where, you have to decide what's in it for you. Why are you doing this? And for me, I'm happy to make that mistake, especially at that time. I was happy to make that mistake because the next race I came back and kicked everybody's butt because I learned something from it.
Right. Yeah, the one thing I've noticed the past couple of years is I go to lemons more for fun and the friends, but I need to scratch the competitive itch somewhere. So that's why I'm starting to do cross training.
And again, there's nothing wrong with whatever reason
No.
you have for doing what you're doing. But if it's not in alignment with what your goals are, like if it's like, I'm happy just socializing and having fun and never making a mistake, but I want to be a Formula One world champion. Those two just don't go together.
Nope.
I can insert Max joke here, but I will choose not to.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to throw one in there, but yeah, any one of those guys, how much they really, really care about somebody else liking them. That's not really high on their list.
Zero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they don't care at all. Given a choice, would they rather be liked than not liked? Yes. And I don't care. Pick your favorite driver or your most hated driver. They all are all that way. They would prefer to be liked. But at the end of the day, given a choice between liked and winning a Formula One Grand Prix, they will take winning. And if that means being hated by everybody, that's the sacrifice you make in that world.
Right.
All right, Ross, we've helped everybody that's on the podcast from our team. So I have one more question before you're released from the jail of Garage Heroes and Training 50th anniversary episodes. What would 3 things that you would recommend for somebody who's going to do the one lap of America?
3 things.
We have 3 more months until it starts.
Get sleep now. No.
Get sleep now is definitely on the list.
Number 1 is know that you can get along really well with your co-driver or co-drivers. That's priority 1. I've only done it once. I've only done one lump once, and I got lucky and hit a home run, to use a weird sports analogy there, in that my co-driver, who I'd never met until we got on one lap, was just an absolute delightful person. And I loved spending every minute with him, because you're going to spend a lot of minutes with that person. And I also know people that know their co-driver so well that they really didn't have anything to talk about. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but that's
in some
number
cars
1.
you can't hear them, so it wouldn't really matter. But
yeah, so that's number 1. Number 2, is practice getting up to speed super fast. And if you have a chance, do some time attack competition before you go and do one lap. The sooner you can learn a track and get up to speed on each of those tracks, the better off you're going to be. Some drivers are really good at getting up to speed really fast and peak right away. Some drivers take many laps to get there. One lap of America, that doesn't reward somebody that takes 5 laps to get up to speed. You need to get up to speed right now.
Right.
And, there's all the stuff about sleeping and food and all that kind of stuff. But I'd say one other thing that is important: get really good at unpacking and packing your car.
Ooh, and you're taking a Koopa.
I am.
Yeah. So, when I did it in a Porsche GT3, and there's not a lot of room, especially ones with got a roll bar in it and stuff. There's not a lot of room in it. And
rumor has it you were tent challenged, sir.
We had a little tiny tent, but
Bill, you don't tent.
Well, really all you do is you use a tent. You show up at the track, you take everything out of the car, you put the tent up, and you store all your stuff in the tent. This little tiny 1-person pup tent really is just a storage place for all your gear while you're on track. And then you come back off the track, and the sooner you can pack that stuff up back into your car and get on the road, the more sleep and the better your food is going to be, and the more energy you're going to have for the next day. So that part is actually, I'm going to say, is surprisingly important. And, so I did it, when I did it, we kind of worked out a routine where, if I was going to drive the track that day, we'd show up real kind of mostly quickly, just take everything out of the car. And then I'd go into a track walk and come back. And then, everything was all set up and I'd go and drive the track. If my co-driver was going to drive the track, then I was in charge of kind of putting stuff up. Most of the time I ended up driving it. But, just work out that little system of getting things unpacked and get back on the road. You get ranked in your first event kind of thing. So if your first event, you finish in the top 10, then you're going to start every time you show up at the track, you're going to run in the first 10 or so, which is a big advantage because then you can get your runs out of the way and you can get on the road sooner. There is, obviously different classes, the faster cars tend to be in the top and everything. So there's some things that you just can't beat if you're driving a slower car. But the more of that kind of stuff that you can do just to be super efficient so that you show up at the track, you get a track walk in, you get everything unpacked, you get a track walk in, you go and drive, you get packed up again and you get on the road. And that's important.
Yep.
And then avoid the tornadoes. We barely did that. We drove.
That makes me want to go now.
Jeremy wants to take it for a spin.
I have been in many different sort of Mother Nature fun things, and tornadoes. I haven't been close to one yet. So
is that your bucket list?
That's on my bucket list.
All right, well, you're scheduled for next year, sir. So
yeah,
cool.
And enjoy it. And part of it, again, it's going to depend on why you're doing it and what you want to get out of it and things like this. But I'm not a big partier. If you like to party, there are people that will stay up until 4 a.m. and party with you. And given a choice between sleeping and being able to go back and drive the next day, I chose the sleeping and going back to the track the next day.
Yep.
But again, different for everybody.
Yeah, Bill's a sleeper.
Yep. He is. Bill, the biggest thing for Bill is going to be he's not going to be able to take his afternoon nap.
It's nap time.
No, the hell I won't.
That's what the co-driver's for.
That's the co-driver.
Right.
I will. I can sleep at a stoplight, sir. Do not doubt me. It's not a problem. Well, Mr. Bentley, thank you for coming on to our lowly podcast from your upper echelon #2 podcast in the world.
Yeah, right. I wish, but yeah, thanks for having me on the show again. And I guess I'll keep doing it until I stop getting the invite.
You will never stop getting the invite, sir.
Yeah. I do have one thing real quick before we get off.
Okay.
So before the podcast's over, Vicki and Audra, have either one of you read any of Ross's books, Speed Secrets?
It's on my nightstand right there, and I have the process.
I have it on my nightstand right here.
So I will
That's code
say
for no.
I will say that these books will 100% help your driving and your understanding of what is going on. So I really highly suggest them. They're very good books. And I'm not just saying that because you're on, Ross. I really do. They're great books. They can help you a lot from the beginner stages to a super advanced driver. So those will help you before this race season.
Okay. Well, this is my year for leveling, so I'll have to get busy.
Ross, can you just TikTok excerpts from your book in order, and Vicki will read them 100%.
Yeah, I was going to say, thanks for saying that, Jeremy. But I also realize that there are some people that don't learn as well by reading a book.
Yep.
And that to me is like saying some people just don't breathe.
Yeah.
Like, reading and breathing are the same thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand that some people don't. But there are other resources, and Bill, I know you're going to ask me. So speedsecrets.com, I have all sorts of resources on there for people that don't necessarily like to read as much as well. And I'm working on a couple of things video wise and masterclass webinar wise that
And
I think
audiobooks.
yeah, the audiobook thing is the one thing that I've been asked. I can't control that because I have a publisher that published my books. And guess what? They are the ones through my contract who can say, we're going to do an audiobook version or not. And I've asked them many times and they go, we're not convinced that we're going to sell enough audiobooks to make it worth the investment of recording it.
I think that you should recommend that they do some research as to how much race drivers drive on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And I that's where I read all my books is through audiobooks because I drive 3 hours a day. So, I mean, if I feel like
we do a lot of driving to racetracks.
Yeah.
if I feel like if you suggest that they do some market research in this community, I feel like they would have a different saying.
Absolutely.
But all those drivers are busy listening to Garage Heroes and Training podcasts.
Well,
only in Kenya. In
Kenya, we rock, man. I have bad news for them, but good news potentially for Ross. So Vicki got a wonderful Christmas gift, but she also gave me a wonderful Christmas gift, which will indirectly give Mr. Bentley a Christmas gift because I have planned. Miss Vicki is organizing the podcast / iRacing room. And in said podcast iRacing room, for my own purposes, I will be making an audiobook of Ultimate Speed Secrets, which I will be sending a file to Ross. And if he wants to use it, he can. If somebody else wants it, Ross has to give it to you because I can't do that. But we will have an audiobook, whether you want it or not, sir. So Merry Christmas.
Wow. Thank you. So is it all going to be your voice?
Oh, well, Jeremy may show up every now and then. Hi,
I don't know if people really want to hear your voice or my voice.
That's what I was waiting for. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Thank you.
We may have guest. We may have guest drivers appear randomly that sound just like me with a cold. That's fine.
Cool.
So, thank you, sir. Until another 50 episodes, or we see you at the track, or we come up with a really dumb reason and try to use it as an excuse to get you back on the podcast. Thank you.
Or you
Ross.
come race lemons with us.
Yeah, that's available. Always available.
Yes.
It's his schedule. It's hard.
Hoping that changes a bit. But anyways, yes, I would. Yes. Look forward to being on a podcast or seeing you at a track this year.
And it would be far from me not to drop one hint. Are you ready for my subtle hint?
Yes.
So your number 2 podcast in all of the world of automotive, we've had you on the podcast. We've had Sam on the podcast. Who's that other guy? I haven't had him on.
You've not had Jeff on there yet?
No.
Oh, well. Jeff's a little busy right now with a little race coming up at Daytona.
It's a minor thing.
A little race, he says. A little
minor
race.
thing.
But
I'll buy him a watch.
Really?
Sure.
It won't be one of those watches.
It won't be one of those watches, but
it would be it's going to be like the ones that I saw when I was coaching in China. They're Rolexes.
That's right. Rolex. Yes.
Oh, did you pick up a whole bunch of those?
A Rolex Dayton.
That's awesome.
Yeah. You can get them for $12.
Yep. But the better ones are $100. Don't worry.
Yeah. Well, I'll help you get Jeff on.
Oh, very well. And then we can finally answer the endless debate of how do you pronounce his last name. So that'd be great.
Braun.
That's it.
Yep.
Okay. Because I've heard everybody except him say it so many different ways. I'm confused.
Yeah. I mean, everybody reads it as Braun, but apparently the proper pronunciation of it is Brown. So.
Okay. He should do something fancy, like put an umlaut on it or something just to mess with people's minds, you know?
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Mr. Bentley. We will bother you again.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have fun.